Oh, the things we do for love. Like watch a show we love, even when it hurts. It's no secret that this final season of Game of Thrones has been, divisive. The showrunners, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, needed to make some tough decisions as they brought this story of a guy, a girl, and an Iron Throne to a close. But while many fans were left disappointed, it seems like many of the stars of the show also had strong feelings about the way the story closed out. Join ScreenRant, click on that subscribe button, and behold these Game of Thrones actors' reactions to the series ending. It's not a lie that over 8 seasons, Kit Harington became one of the top-tier talents on Game of Thrones' roster. But what did someone with a career so invested in the show's finale actually think about the ending itself? In a revealing interview, Kit honestly said, "Disappointing." Then he tried to cover it up by saying, "No, epic. I don't know, one of those ones." Early clips from HBO's documentary, Game of Thrones: The Last Watch, revealed that Harington, who hadn't read the Season 8 script before the table read, was tearing up when hearing it for the first time.
Of course, it's going to be a terrible last season.
Those emotions weren't enough to keep his honesty from surfacing after the final episodes were produced. I guess you still just know nothing, huh, Jon Snow?
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Emilia Clarke, the Dragon Queen, had a hard time hiding her own feelings on the red carpet. When doing an interview with Nathalie Emmanuel, who plays Missandei, and Jacob Anderson, who plays Grey Worm at her side, Clarke answered with a pained smile. Asked, "Are you happy with how things ended?" The Khaleesi responded,
"Best season ever!"
Maybe Clarke was one of the negative reviewers behind the tanked Rotten Tomatoes score for The Bells. You know, the episode where Daenerys roasts King's Landing. While Anderson can't seem to contain himself at Clarke's side, Emmanuel remains calm, cool, and collected. But hey, she didn't have to worry about the Mad Queen backlash against her character. Maybe Clarke just had a bad feeling about Daenerys' last-minute heel turn. Lena Headey's Cersei didn't have to worry about any last-minute backlash. She's been banned this whole time. And as the realest housewife in Westeros, this fierce, powerful Lannister knows how to take care of herself. Headey posted a farewell on Instagram after The Bells aired, saying, "There she goes. It's been fun and bonkers, and now her watch has ended." I know she'd never make it. Night's Watch wouldn't have her, but still. Regarding her last moments with Jaime, Headey said that Cersei realizes just how she loves him and just how much he loves her. Ultimately, they belong together. Still, Nikolaj Coster Waldau needed to convince her this was the perfect ending. Originally, Headey said she wanted to have some big peace or fight with somebody. Peter Dinklage is known for his forthright manner of speaking, and some of the supercuts of cast reactions that have hit the interwebs include him seeming less than excited for the show's climax. In particular, a behind-the-scenes interview from The Long Night shows Dinklage joking about how Tyrion's supposed to be one of the smartest men in the Seven Kingdoms, who also thinks it's a great idea to hide the women and children in the crypts of Winterfell with, dead Stark bodies, as the army of the dead surround the city. Still, he's been quoted as saying, "I had all these ideas in my head, and a version of them is how it ends up. A brilliant version of what I had." Nikolaj Coster Waldau's Jaime is a more level-headed counterpart to his wild-card twin sister Cersei. Likewise, Waldau was also more even-keeled when it came to dealing with his character's last moments on screen. On Instagram, he called Lena Headey the best, sweetest, most wonderful sister from another mother. That was a fun decade. Ironically, in some fans' opinions, his death received less press coverage than Cersei's, which led fans to theorize that maybe the crumblings of the Red Keep didn't truly kill Jaime Lannister, and his character would return in the series finale. Perhaps they also figured he'd survive the fall but lose his other hands. What a twist! Maisie Williams has been considerably more positive about the show's ending than the real-world versions of Jon Snow and Daenerys. Perhaps this is because her character has been a relatively cool, calm, and collected action star. The girl defeated the Night King, held her own against hordes of undead, and survived a stumbling, disorienting stroll through a flaming King's Landing. With such an incredible resume under Arya's belt, Maisie Williams naturally had this to say about the whole experience. This whole season was really emotional. She went on to say that as her final footage was being filmed, most of the other cast had already finished. So, much like Arya, Maisie remained a bit of a lone wolf. Sophie Turner gave less of a straight answer when asked about how the show ending felt for her. Ultimately, Turner seems to be satisfied with the way Sansa ended up. Starting as a girl with the stars in her eyes and in over her head as palace intrigue was spun around her, Lady Stark was able to find her way and prove herself as a leader. While she's happy with the way things ended up, Sophie Turner revealed that a lot of fans will be disappointed and a lot of fans will be over the moon. Regardless, she stated, "As an actor, it was really satisfying to be able to act out the way it all ends." Turner really grew up on screen and proved her great talent in the process. Ian McElhinney has been out of the game for quite some time. His character Sir Barristan Selmy was taken out way back in Season 5 and only appeared on his final episode as a corpse. Yet the actor is known as one of the cast members who's read the books and followed the status of the adaptation closely. He's also the source of a recent rumor debunked by George R.R. Martin himself that the author has already completed the long-awaited 6th and 7th books in the series, even though that the author has insisted that that rumor is false. In another clip making the rounds, McElhinney states that he would have preferred to last longer than he did, but the fate of his character was in the showrunner's hands. Like his on-screen counterpart, Varys, Conleth Hill has found ways to let his true feelings be known behind the scenes. While we're sure he loved appearing in all his scene-chewing moments, he noted that he was disappointed that he wasn't given a scene where he could learn of his adversary Littlefinger's death last season. Nor was he given too much to do before being flambéed by Drogon. The showrunners may have hinted that Varys was attempting to poison Daenerys, but according to Hill, that's been my feeling the last couple seasons, that my character became more peripheral. At the end of the day, Hill said, "I'm going to miss some of the people and all of the money." For a character like Missandei, who received a pretty brutal and unceremonial death for someone who's come so far during her journey throughout the show, Nathalie Emmanuel has been nothing but classy. The actress seemed relatively positive about the season, even while sharing an interview with Clarke, who couldn't seem to contain some level of frustration over her character's destiny. As the only woman of color to serve as a lead on the show, she articulated that Missandei and Grey Worm have represented so many people. She went on to say, "It wasn't until she was gone that I really felt what it really truly meant. I saw the outcry and outpouring of love and outrage." Throughout the course of the series, Jerome Flynn's Bronn has subtly been the most steadfast and battle-hardened character in the show. While he's never been too flashy, he proved himself as one of the coolest guys around, just for, well, always maintaining his cool. When talking up the 8th season, Jerome Flynn didn't mince words. He stated that Bronn's either going to get his castle or he's gonna die getting it. Even though Flynn didn't know for sure whether he'd make it to the end, and there were many times where radio silence on the part of the writers led the actor to believe he wasn't coming back, the showrunners, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, promised that Bronn would get his time to shine.
You don't fight with honor.
No.
Gwendoline Christie, on the other hand, has always been more talkative with the press. The ever-positive actress gives a glowing review of the season to come during the evergreen time when the reviewers, reporters, and fans alike look forward to the next season with hope and excitement.
Disappointing.
When speaking to Good Morning America about receiving and reading through the season's scripts, Christie said, "I had to put them down. I had to go out for a walk. I realized they had pulled out all the stops for this one." Luckily for Christie, Brienne of Tarth received a decent amount of action scenes and a long-awaited romance, something her Star Wars counterpart, Captain Phasma, never really got to experience on screen. Let's not talk about her. Ian Hempstead Wright, unfortunately, wasn't given the same treatment. While his character is perhaps the most powerful human in Westeros as the series draws to a close, Wright's Bran Stark stayed pretty reserved when it came to using his powers as the Three-Eyed Raven. And speaking to GQ before the season launched, Wright said what we all now realize. There's no way they'll manage to please everyone. As far as I'm concerned, and everyone else I've spoken to who knows the conclusion, I think we've wrapped it up in a really clever way. In Wright's mind, he was happy that there wasn't any extra gotcha moment after the dust settled, and he appreciated that Game of Thrones had what he considered to be a definitive finale.
That we never want to see this come to a close, but it must, and it will be good.
John Bradley Samwell Tarly has made a long journey from being the butt of jokes to becoming Sam the Slayer. But hey, it isn't Sam's show. He's part of a larger tapestry, and by the end of the show, Bradley just seems happy enough that his character survived as long as he did, and lived thanks to his head smarts and studies. When faced with the question over whether fans will like the ending, Bradley maintains Sam's connection to reality. He's on the record as saying, maybe not, because everybody's got a different way that it wants to end. But if it's any consolation, Bradley's confirmed that he's happy with the ending because he feels it brings his character to a satisfying finish. Another man who Jon Snow respects is Liam Cunningham's Davos Seaworth, a low-born smuggler who became a knight thanks to his willingness to give his superiors the facts. Liam Cunningham may have the face for a more regal character, but he sells Davos's humble nature completely. When questioned by a reporter with Conleth Hill and Isaac Hempstead Wright at his side, he refused to give any blistering critique of the show's ending. In another feature, he stated that he agrees with Martin's assessment of the ending, calling it bittersweet. To him, he said it's a bit like life. There's unanswered bits and answered bits, and pain and misery and suffering. But all the big stories, there is a certain resolution to them.
If I open my mouth here tonight, I'm out of here. You could be taken out as well for asking the question.
Grey Worm may have gone all in when sacking King's Landing, but Jacob Anderson, the actor who brings Grey Worm to life, has a much more reserved assessment of the Game of Thrones ending. During the Battle of Winterfell, in the 3rd episode of the 8th season, Grey Worm was an odds-on favorite for being one of the casualties. While many of the Dothraki and Unsullied were wiped out during that battle, Grey Worm lived to fight another day, and according to Anderson, this was no surprise. Still, he was taken aback by Arya being the character to do in The Night King, even though he reconciled this storytelling decision with the fact that Arya's been training all this time to defeat death. Pilou Asbaek's Euron Greyjoy is one of the show's newer additions, and thankfully he's been pretty open regarding his own feelings on the show and its storytelling over the past couple of seasons. It's mostly positive though, so keep your cool, haters. Regarding the finale of the show, Asbaek revealed that his allegiance is to the showrunners. He's quoted as saying, "I hope Dan and David are going to end up on the throne." Recognizing the split response that fandom has given the 8th season, Asbaek reiterated that everyone has done the best work they could under the circumstances. When it's all said and done, he's told interviewers, "I think it will stand the test of time." What about Giant Slayer and Giant Lover Tormund? The Wildling leader has become the fan favorite in the show in the same way the character stole readers' hearts within Martin's pages. And while he seemed to lose Brienne to Jaime, he remained pretty chill about it. The actor himself is aware of the vibes, saying, "She has never shown him a single centimeter of affection, but you can avoid a lot of crying if you just went with the guy who loves you the most." As for any deep, dark feelings about the show, Hivju doesn't really seem to harbor them. Much like how Tormund doesn't care for the throne, Hivju seems to enjoy his time on set. He even formed a band called the Brotherhood Without Banjos.
Giant's milk.
Maybe I will have that drink.
The same goes for Rory McCann, who has a much less forbidding composure than his in-show counterpart, the Hound. For a show that tried to keep the audience on their toes and refused to make long-term storytelling promises, the Clogging Bowl, aka the fight between the Hound and the Mountain, has been teased since early on in the series. And to many fans, Game of Thrones did not disappoint. Rory McCann discussed with Entertainment Weekly how the fight was brutal, saying, "I'm absolutely sure I'm going to be limping for months after it." While McCann truly is a solitary sort, much like his character, he was happy to share scenes again with Arya and Sansa. Summing it up, the actor felt blessed to be given this storyline.
I remember just watching going, no, 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 what?
As for the writer himself, we're sure his feelings on the end of the series are complex at best. And while you might be saying he's not an actor like the rest of the people on this list, let us remind you that he did appear as a wedding guest to Daenerys and Khal Drogo's union in the original unaired pilot. In the media, Martin said he has mixed feelings, quipping that it's the end for a lot of people. It's not the end for me. Well, once the dust and ash finally settles in King's Landing, we hope that Martin will be able to settle the score with his version soon enough. Right like the wind, Georgie boy. Right like the wind, please. What is dead may never die, and so will the debate over whether Season 8 was as satisfying as it should have been. With the end so nigh, did you have the same reaction to the series as its many stars? Did you happily accept the prince that was promised? Or did you sign that petition for a remake series? Let us know in the comment section below, and keep watching ScreenRant for more battle-hardened videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.